I had been married to Sophia for 8 years, and our relationship had been everything I dreamed of, at least in the beginning. We built our life together on shared dreams and mutual respect. But things changed after her promotion. That sparkle in her eyes when she looked at me faded, replaced with indifference. When I tried to reconnect physically, her response cut deep. "I will not fulfill your desires." That night, I made a decision that would transform our marriage forever. Before I tell you how I stopped being my wife's ATM, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt taken for granted in a relationship. I met Sophia at my college roommate's wedding reception. She was a bridesmaid, laughing with genuine joy that lit up her entire face. I remember thinking she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, not just because of her appearance, but because of how alive she seemed. After gathering my courage, I approached her at the dessert table and made a terrible joke about the wedding cake that somehow made her laugh. "I am Quentin." I introduced myself, trying to appear more confident than I felt. "Sophia," she replied with a warm smile that made my heart skip. We spent the entire evening talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her dreams of working in marketing, her tight-knit family, and her love for hiking in the mountains. I shared my passion for software development and my goal of creating programs that would genuinely help people. The conversation flowed so naturally that we barely noticed when most guests had already left. Our first date was at a small neighborhood cafe, where we split a sandwich because we were both saving money. Sophia appreciated the simple things in life back then. She talked about growing up in a middle-class family in Portland, where her parents taught her the value of hard work and living within your means. "My dad always said that happiness comes from relationships, not possessions." She told me on our third date, as we walked through a local park with ice cream cones that cost $1 each. I was building my career as a developer at a promising tech startup. The hours were long and the pay was modest, but the potential was there. Sophia supported me completely, often bringing homemade dinner to my office when I had to work late. Within a year, we were engaged. Our wedding was small and meaningful, held in her parents' backyard with fairy lights strung through the trees. Instead of expensive rings, we chose simple bands and promised to upgrade them on our 10th anniversary. For our honeymoon, we drove up the California coast, staying in budget motels and eating at local diners, making memories that felt priceless. We moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Seattle. It was small, with outdated appliances and questionable plumbing, but it was ours. Every evening we would sit on our single second-hand couch planning our future together. We dreamed of eventually buying a house, starting a family, and growing old together. Those first few years were financially tight but emotionally rich. Sophia found a job at a small marketing firm while I continued climbing the ladder at my company. We pooled our resources, maintained a strict budget, and celebrated small victories like paying off a credit card or adding to our savings account. "We are in this together," Sophia would say, as we reviewed our finances each month at the kitchen table. We shared a joint account, made financial decisions as a team, and both contributed equally to our household, considering our different income levels. Everything began to shift during our third year of marriage. Sophia landed a marketing position at a luxury retail company. It was a significant step up in her career, with better pay and opportunities for advancement. I was thrilled for her success and proud of her accomplishments. "You deserve this, Soph," I said, splurging on a nice bottle of champagne to celebrate her new job. "I always knew you were destined for great things." With our combined increased income, we were finally able to pay off Sophia's student loans and build a more substantial emergency fund. We even started seriously saving for a down payment on a house. Life seemed to be unfolding exactly as we had planned. The changes were subtle at first. Sophia started dressing differently for her new role, which made perfect sense given the industry she was in. Her work wardrobe expanded and she began wearing makeup more often. I supported these changes, understanding they were part of her professional development. Around this time, I also received a promotion to senior developer, which came with a significant salary increase. We decided it was time to move out of our tiny apartment. We found a charming 3-bedroom house in a desirable neighborhood with a small yard and an open kitchen that Sophia had always wanted. Our new home represented all we had worked for, a testament to our partnership and shared goals. As we toasted with friends at our housewarming party, I had no idea that this success would become the beginning of the end of the marriage I thought we had. Within 18 months at her luxury retail company, Sophia was promoted to marketing director for their premium brands. Her talent for understanding consumer psychology and creating compelling campaigns caught the attention of senior management. Her rapid ascent came with significant perks: a corner office business trips to fashion capitals, and access to industry events. "I cannot believe how quickly everything is happening," she told me after her promotion, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "This is beyond anything I ever imagined for myself." I was genuinely happy for her. Her success was well-deserved, and I admired her talent and work ethic. What I did not anticipate was how profoundly this new world would change her. Sophia began spending more time with colleagues and clients who lived lavish lifestyles. Lunches at modest restaurants were replaced by dinners at exclusive establishments where entrees cost more than our weekly grocery budget had once been. Weekend hikes gave way to spa retreats and shopping excursions. Her new circle of friends consisted primarily of people from the luxury industry, fashion executives, high-end real estate agents, and socialites who measured success in brand names and exotic vacations. When we occasionally socialized with them, conversations revolved around vacation properties in Aspen or the south of France, designer collections, and charity galas that cost thousands per plate. I tried to fit into this new world, but I felt increasingly out of place. At one dinner party, I mentioned enjoying a camping trip, and the uncomfortable silence that followed made it clear that sleeping in a tent was considered peculiar among this crowd. "Quentin still thinks a weekend without Wi-Fi is an adventure." Sophia laughed quickly, changing the subject to a luxury safari camp she had heard about, where guests could experience nature without sacrificing comfort. Her work required international travel to Paris, Milan, and New York during fashion weeks. Initially, she would call me every night, excited to share her experiences and saying how much she missed me. Gradually, these calls became briefer and less frequent. Social media posts showed her at exclusive events, looking glamorous and perfectly at ease, in settings that seemed worlds away from the life we had built together. When she returned from these trips, she often seemed distant, taking days to fully re-engage with our home life. She would bring back expensive souvenirs that felt like peace offerings for her absence, both physical and emotional. "You should get rid of those flannel shirts," she told me one evening, as I dressed for dinner with her colleagues. "They make you look like you should be chopping wood, not working in tech." My casual style became a point of contention. My preference for comfort over fashion, which had never bothered her before, now seemed to embarrass her. She began buying me designer clothes I never asked for, and making comments about my appearance that left me feeling inadequate. Even my hobbies came under scrutiny. My weekend coding projects, which she had once supported as passionate pursuits, were now dismissed as geeky and antisocial. My suggestions for weekend activities were often met with thinly veiled disdain. "Board game night with your developer friends again. Do you ever want to do anything sophisticated?" she asked, once making me feel childish for enjoying something that had always brought me joy. As the emotional distance between us grew, our physical intimacy diminished. What had once been a natural, loving connection became increasingly rare. When I tried to initiate intimacy, Sophia would turn away with various excuses. She was too tired, had an early meeting, or was stressed about work. I made countless attempts to rebuild our connection. I planned surprise date nights at restaurants that required reservations months in advance. I bought thoughtful gifts that aligned with her new interests. I suggested weekend getaways to luxury resorts, hoping to find common ground in her preferred environment. "I booked us a weekend at that vineyard resort you mentioned," I told her one evening, proud of securing a reservation at an exclusive property. "That is great," she replied, without looking up from her phone, "but I might need to attend a last-minute event that weekend. Can we see?" As we get closer, the weekend never happened. Neither did many others I planned. Meanwhile, our financial situation was becoming increasingly strained, despite our substantial combined income. Sophia's spending on designer clothing, luxury accessories, and expensive beauty treatments escalated dramatically. Credit card statements revealed four-figure sums spent at high-end department stores and boutiques each month. When I gently raised concerns about our savings goals, particularly for the family we had once talked about, her response was defensive. "We make more than enough." "Why are you suddenly being so stingy?" "This is my career, Quentin. I need to look the part." Arguments about financial priorities became more frequent. Our once transparent approach to money management eroded as Sophia began making major purchases without discussion. The partnership that had characterized our early marriage was dissolving before my eyes. "Did you really need to spend $3,000 on a coat?" I asked after discovering a particularly extravagant purchase. "You do not understand my world," she replied dismissively. "Appearances matter in luxury marketing. Besides, you make plenty of money now." What is the problem? The problem was not just the money. It was that I increasingly felt my value to Sophia was primarily financial, while my emotional needs were considered irrelevant. I was financing a lifestyle that I was barely a part of, with a partner who seemed to view me as little more than a reliable source of income. Our 8th wedding anniversary was approaching, and I saw it as an opportunity to reconnect with my wife. I spent weeks planning a romantic weekend at a secluded coastal resort, making dinner reservations at an acclaimed restaurant, and arranging for couples, massages, and activities we had enjoyed in our early days together. "I have planned something special for our anniversary next weekend," I told Sophia one evening. "I really think we need this time together." She barely looked up from her laptop. "Next weekend? I cannot. There is a major industry event I have to attend in Los Angeles." I thought I mentioned it. She had not mentioned it. Or perhaps she had, and it had gotten lost in the growing silence between us. Either way, the realization that our anniversary ranked below a work event was heartbreaking. "Can you not skip it this once?" "It is our anniversary, Sophia. We barely spend any time together anymore." She finally looked at me, her expression, a mixture of irritation and pity. "This event is crucial for networking. My career has to come first right now. We can celebrate another time." That night, as we prepared for bed in silence, I decided to make one last attempt at honest communication. Sitting on the edge of our bed, I tried to express my feelings without accusation. "Soph, I miss us. Not just physically, though. That is part of it. I miss our connection, our partnership. I feel like we are drifting apart, and it scares me." She sat at her vanity, methodically applying expensive night creams to her face. In the mirror, her eyes met mine with a coldness I had never seen before. "Look, Quentin, I am just not interested in that aspect of our relationship anymore. I will not fulfill your desires. That part of our marriage is not a priority for me now." Her words hit like a physical blow. "So what is our marriage about then?" I asked, my voice barely steady. She turned to face me directly. "We have a successful life. We have status, a beautiful home, respectable careers. Is that not enough? Many couples would envy what we have. But I do not want what we have if it does not include actual love and intimacy," I replied. "Then maybe you need to adjust your expectations," she said with finality, turning back to the mirror. I spent that night on the couch, unable to sleep beside someone who had just confirmed my worst fears. Our marriage had become a facade, a performance of success without any emotional substance. The next morning I left for work early, my mind racing with painful thoughts. Instead of going to the office, I called in sick and went to a coffee shop to clear my head. As I sat there, my phone pinged with a credit card alert. Sophia had just made a purchase of $5,000 at a luxury boutique. Something compelled me to check our joint accounts, which I had not monitored closely in months. What I found shocked me. Thousands withdrawn for unexplained reasons, transfers to her personal account, and luxury purchases that far exceeded even her substantial salary. That evening I returned home earlier than usual. Sophia was not home yet, but her iPad was on the kitchen counter. A notification appeared with a text message preview from her friend Alicia. "Did boring Quentin fall for the work event excuse? Men are so gullible." I knew I should not invade her privacy, but after what I had discovered about our finances, I felt justified in looking further. What I found confirmed my worst suspicions. In conversations with her friends, Sophia regularly mocked my desire for intimacy, complained about my middle-class mindset despite my six-figure salary, and worst of all, described me as useful for paying bills, but not much else. Later that night, I overheard her on the phone in her home office, the door not quite closed. "No, he has no idea about Aspen next month. He thinks it is a work trip. He is such a simple guy, really. As long as the bills get paid, he is happy in his little tech world with his video games and coding projects." I quietly retreated to our bedroom, a strange calm replacing the turmoil I had felt all day. Something had broken inside me, but instead of pain, I felt clarity. I spent the night researching legal and financial information, making notes and forming a plan. The next morning I called a therapist whose number I had saved months ago, but never dialed. I secured an emergency appointment for that afternoon. I also contacted a financial advisor who specialized in complex financial situations. I need to understand my options, I told both professionals. I need to protect myself without becoming someone I do not want to be. The therapist helped me process my feelings of betrayal and anger while encouraging me to focus on my own well-being rather than revenge. The financial advisor provided practical guidance on separating our finances legally and fairly. Over the next week, I methodically examined every aspect of our financial entanglement. I calculated fair contributions to household expenses based on our respective incomes. I documented all joint assets and liabilities. I created spreadsheets showing exactly what portion of our lifestyle each of us was financing. Throughout this process, I maintained my normal routine. I went to work, came home and engaged in pleasant but superficial conversations with Sophia. She seemed relieved by my apparent acceptance of our new normal, unaware that I was preparing to fundamentally change the dynamics of our relationship. As painful as the situation was, I was determined to act with integrity. This was not about punishment, but about establishing boundaries that protected my financial and emotional well-being. I wanted to stand up for myself without becoming bitter or vindictive. You need to be prepared for various reactions, my therapist warned. When people are confronted with the consequences of their actions, they rarely respond rationally at first. With my plan in place and my resolve strengthened, I was ready to take action that would either end our marriage or transform it into something honest and balanced. Either way, I would no longer be taken for granted. My first step was opening an individual bank account at a different institution from where we held our joint accounts. I updated my direct deposit information at work, ensuring my next paycheck would go entirely to this new account. I then calculated exactly what portion of our household expenses I was legally and morally obligated to cover. Based on our income ratio, I determined that I should be responsible for 60% of essential expenses: mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, and property taxes. I set up an automatic transfer for precisely this amount to our joint account scheduled to occur on the first of each month. Next, I tackled our joint credit cards. I paid off the outstanding balances in full, then called each company to remove myself as an authorized user. For cards where I was the primary account holder, I kept them active, but removed Sophia as an authorized user. Throughout this process, I maintained meticulous records of all transactions, transfers, and communications. My financial advisor stressed the importance of documentation in case the situation escalated to legal proceedings. Everything must be above board, he emphasized. You are simply establishing financial boundaries, not cutting her off completely. The first indication that Sophia noticed these changes came about 2 weeks after I implemented my plan. She called me in the middle of a workday, her voice tight with controlled anger. My card was declined at Nordstrom. There must be some mistake with our credit card. There is no mistake, I replied calmly. I removed you as an authorized user on that account. You did what? Her voice rose sharply. Why would you do that without discussing it with me? I think we need to talk about this in person. I will see you at home tonight. I ended the call and returned to work, bracing myself for the confrontation to come. When I arrived home that evening, Sophia was waiting in the living room, still in her work clothes, arms crossed defensively. What is going on, Quentin? Why are you suddenly messing with our finances? I sat down across from her, maintaining the calm I had practiced with my therapist. I have made some changes to how I am managing my income. I am still contributing my fair share to our household expenses, but I am no longer financing your personal luxury spending. Her expression shifted from anger to disbelief. You cannot just make unilateral decisions about our money. Actually, I can make decisions about my money, just as you have been doing with yours, I replied. I have calculated exactly what portion of our shared expenses I am responsible for, and I am covering that amount completely. This is ridiculous, she scoffed. We have always shared everything. Have we? Because from what I can see, I have been sharing my resources while you have been making independent decisions about yours. The $5,000 handbag you bought last week without discussion comes to mind. Her eyes widened slightly. You have been spying on me. I checked our joint account statements, which I have every right to do. I also saw your texts with Alicia and overheard your phone conversation about the Aspen trip you were hiding from me. Sophia's face flushed, but she quickly recovered, shifting to a different tactic. "You are being petty and vindictive, because I would not sleep with you. This is not about sex, Sophia. This is about respect and honesty. You told me that fulfilling my desires is not a priority for you. That is your choice. Now I am telling you that financing your luxury lifestyle is not a priority for me. That is my choice. So what this is? Some kind of punishment," she demanded. I shook my head. "No, it is a boundary. If I am just an ATM to you, the ATM is now closed. If you want a partner in all aspects of life, including finances, then we need to have a much deeper conversation about what our marriage actually means to both of us." The argument escalated from there. Sophia cycled through various emotional responses: anger, tears, accusations, and finally threats. "I will tell everyone you are financially abusing me," she warned. "You are welcome to tell people whatever you want," I responded. "I have documented everything, including calculating fair contributions based on our incomes. I am not cutting you off. I am simply not funding excess luxury spending anymore." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I expected her to stay with a friend that night, but she returned late, silently, going to the guest bedroom without another word. Over the following days, Sophia employed increasingly desperate tactics. She called my parents, painting me as controlling and unreasonable. She involved her own parents, who left concerned voicemails asking me to work things out with their daughter. Most alarmingly, she began crafting a narrative on social media, posting vague but pointed comments about financial control as a form of abuse and men who use money as power. Some of her friends and colleagues responded with supportive comments condemning me without knowing the full story. Throughout this campaign, I maintained my position calmly and factually. I did not engage with the social media drama. When friends or family asked about the situation, I simply said, "We are working through some fundamental differences in how we view our marriage." I continued to be cordial to Sophia at home, neither avoiding her nor seeking conflict. I maintained my contributions to our household expenses exactly as planned, demonstrating that this was about boundaries, not punishment. Surprisingly, several mutual friends reached out privately to offer support. One couple, Jackson and Tara, invited me to dinner and shared that they had noticed the changing dynamics in my marriage for some time. "We saw how she began treating you at social gatherings," Tara confided. "Always cutting you off, dismissing your interests. It was painful to watch." Their understanding and support helped strengthen my resolve during this difficult period. I was not crazy or unreasonable. Others had seen the disrespect too. After about 3 weeks of tension and drama, Sophia's approach suddenly changed. One evening she asked if we could talk. Her voice lacked the entitled anger I had grown accustomed to. "I want to understand exactly what you expect from me," she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. I explained my position again, emphasizing that this was about mutual respect and honest partnership, not control or revenge. "I expect the same things I have always wanted: a marriage, where both people value and respect each other, where financial decisions are made together, and where both partners prioritize their relationship above material possessions or status." She nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful rather than defensive for the first time in months. "I need some time to think about everything," she said finally. The next day, Sophia packed several suitcases and announced she was going to stay with her sister in Portland to reconsider our relationship. I helped carry her bags to the car, neither of us saying much beyond logistics. "Take all the time you need," I told her as she prepared to drive away. "I will be here working on myself regardless of what you decide about us." With Sophia gone, our house felt strangely peaceful. The constant tension that had filled every room dissipated, leaving space for me to breathe and reflect. For the first time in years, I had the freedom to rediscover who I was outside of our deteriorating relationship. I reconnected with old friends I had gradually lost touch with, as Sophia had deemed them not sophisticated enough for our social circle. We played board games, went hiking, and had conversations about things that actually mattered to us, rather than discussing brand names or status symbols. My therapist helped me recognize and process the complex emotions I was experiencing. Grief for the relationship, I thought. I had anger at the betrayal, relief at setting boundaries, and fear about an uncertain future. "Grief and relief can coexist," she reminded me during one session. "You can mourn what you lost while appreciating your newfound self-respect." I rediscovered old hobbies that had fallen by the wayside. My weekends were filled with mountain biking, coding personal projects for fun, and reading books that had gathered dust on my shelves. I joined a local tech community group that met weekly to discuss innovations and collaborate on creative projects. Each day that passed reinforced what I had suspected. I had been gradually diminishing myself to accommodate Sophia's changing expectations. I had been contorting myself to fit into a life that was not aligned with my values, all while being increasingly devalued as a partner. Financially, I felt liberated. Without the pressure to fund an extravagant lifestyle, I was able to increase my retirement contributions, build my emergency fund, and even donate to causes I cared about. Money that had previously disappeared into designer boutiques was now creating actual security and fulfillment. 2 months after Sophia left, she texted, asking if we could meet for coffee. I suggested a neutral location, a cafe, halfway between our house and her sister's place. When I arrived, I almost did not recognize her. Gone was the perfectly styled hair designer outfit and carefully applied makeup that had become her uniform. Instead, she wore simple jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as I sat down across from her. "Of course," I replied, genuinely curious about why she had wanted to see me. After some awkward small talk, she took a deep breath. "These past 2 months have been illuminating. Being away from the pressure of my job and that whole environment gave me perspective I did not know I needed." She explained that she had been so caught up in her rapid ascent at work and the intoxicating world of luxury that she had lost sight of who she really was and what actually mattered. "I took you for granted," she admitted. "Worse than that, I used you. I convinced myself that my behavior was justified because of my career, but that was just an excuse to be selfish." She revealed that the culture at her company had created immense pressure to project a certain image. Her colleagues and superiors constantly emphasized that their personal brands were extensions of the luxury brands they represented. Everyone was in competition to be more exclusive, more sophisticated, more elevated, she explained. I was insecure about my background, afraid they would discover I came from a normal middle-class family. So I overcompensated by becoming the most image-conscious person in the room. Her voice broke slightly. "And I dragged you into it, expecting you to finance this persona I was creating, while simultaneously resenting you for being authentic, for being the same person I fell in love with." I listened without interrupting, surprised by her self-awareness, but still protective of my own boundaries. "What do you want now, Sophia?" I asked when she finished. "I want another chance," she said simply. "Not to go back to what we were, but to build something new with what we have learned. I have requested a transfer to a different department at work, away from the luxury division. I am also starting counseling to understand why I was so easily seduced by status and materialism." Her proposal was that we try marriage counseling with clear conditions and boundaries on both sides. She wanted to move back home, but understood that rebuilding trust would take time. I considered her request carefully. Despite everything, I still cared for Sophia. The woman sitting across from me now reminded me more of the person I had fallen in love with than the stranger she had become. "I am willing to try counseling," I said finally, "but I need to be clear that I cannot promise the outcome. And certain things need to change permanently, not just temporarily." We agreed on several non-negotiable conditions: complete financial transparency for both of us, regular counseling, both individually and as a couple, and a modest lifestyle, aligned with our actual values rather than external expectations. Over the following months, we began the difficult work of rebuilding our relationship from the ground up. Our counselor helped us establish healthy communication patterns and work through the resentment and hurt that had accumulated. Sophia followed through on her career change, taking a position in the marketing department for the company's more accessible brands. The pay was somewhat lower, but the culture was significantly healthier. More importantly, she seemed genuinely happier and more balanced. We maintained separate finances with transparent sharing of information, gradually working toward a system that respected both our need for autonomy and our commitment to partnership. Major financial decisions were made together, with honest discussions about priorities and values. Rebuilding trust happened in small moments. Sophia following through on commitments, being honest about her feelings, showing genuine interest in my work and hobbies. I found myself gradually letting down the walls I had built for protection. Physical intimacy returned, slowly, built on emotional connection rather than obligation. We relearned how to be vulnerable with each other, how to express needs without demands or manipulation. Today, our marriage is neither perfect nor the same as it once was. Instead, it is something new, a relationship between two people who have seen the worst of each other and chosen to build something better. We are more honest, more intentional, and more appreciative of what truly matters. Looking back on that painful chapter of our lives, I can see now that sometimes relationships need to break apart before they can be rebuilt properly. By standing firm in my self-respect and refusing to be taken for granted, I created the possibility for genuine change. The lesson I learned was that love without respect is not sustainable. A marriage cannot thrive when one partner values the other only for what they provide rather than who they are. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do for your relationship is to say no to patterns that diminish either person's humanity and dignity. What about you? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries in a relationship? Do you think marriages can recover from this kind of fundamental breach of trust? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video to help others find it. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it brings some clarity or courage to your own life situations.